What's up, everybody? This is your girl Erica from the Classic Climb blog, and 10 million people did not pay their mortgage or their rent in June. Let's talk about it. Again, Big Lots might be going bankrupt. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. Many of you are saying, Erica, whoa, wait a minute. 10 million people. How do we find that out? We found out from over 4.26 million mortgages were not paid in June, as well as 6 million renters did not pay their rent in June. Again, many people saying, how do we have this data? Again, landlords reporting, courthouses reporting, records on records and data on data. Listen, trust me, there are systems. Yardi has a system. That's with real estate. If you know anything about property management, Bilk, BILT. It's a popular reward system. They also do people's rent. There's like Flex. Flex is now doing people's rent. Now Flex lets people break their payments up into payments, right? When it comes to big purchases, they're now in the rent game. So they're now stepping up and they're letting people do big splits of rent. And again, that's not a mortgage, that's rent. They're letting you split it up over payments. Okay. And what's happening? As you see more and more lawyers online talking about the 10 million people, a lot of lawyers say by the time they've called them, they haven't paid their mortgage for a year. They haven't paid their mortgage for 2 years. And what's the rule of thumb I've told you guys all the time? When they say, oh, the foreclosures going up, people fouling against these people going up, these people ain't going nowhere for 3 years. So if you see a bunch of foulings went up in 2024, well, we expect to see that result in 2027. A lot of people have short memories and forget that. A lot of the foreclosures you're seeing now are people from 2020 and 2021 who didn't pay their mortgage and let it just lapse, right? Like just didn't pay it. Now, the average person is going to balance back out somewhere in that journey and pay their mortgage. That's just typically what happens. Now, they may let the car go. Again, I think car foreclosures are repossessions are what we say 36% per se. But at the end of the day, they're going to keep that house. If they have to come up money later, move them around, family, friends, 401k, they're gonna try their best to keep that house because they're not going to be able to beat the interest rate. Just period. Can they rent a house or rent a new location for the same amount that they're currently paying on the mortgage? If it's a no, they're going to stay there. Unless somebody like parents are elderly and live in Maine and they've got to leave this brand new house they bought 4 years ago in Texas or Florida. But that's rare. They much rather bring the parents to where they are than leave that new property, unless they just did not fit in well in those environments. Now, what is a thing that people are kind of saying, well, is Austin okay? People must be leaving Austin. They got to be leaving in droves. And I go, dude, what are you talking about? Google is dropping another $1 billion into Texas. They will be building data centers in Midlothian, Texas, and Red Oak, Texas. Now you're going to say, Erica, that's near Dallas. That's not Austin. Yes, but it just reinforces the headquarters base and some of the offices they have in Austin, Texas, on top of another 10 major companies leaving California and coming to Texas. The skyline is going to stay for Texas, right? The marketing, the delayed marketing, excuse me, I have like a little bit of a cold here. The delayed marketing for Texas is going to be 2 to 5 years, right? Now, what do I mean? If we have an official recession, a lot of people who were living in Florida, living in Tennessee, living in Ohio, living in Pennsylvania, living in Midwest states and saying, hey, man, it's kind of dead here. Like, I can't get any traction. I can't get any work. I'm going to roll. And that June numbers make sense to me because I told y'all October was a hard stop around October 2023 of polite unemployment. It was polite unemployment where things were going, where people were getting severance packages for 6 to 9 months. Elon's laying off everybody and their mama at Twitter, now X or whatever you want to call it. That was polite unemployment. Now we're segueing into unpolite unemployment. Not that, oh, girl, I was just a part of the layoffs. No, it's now like, girl, can you believe I got fired? Can you believe they let go 1,000 people? Can you believe Kellogg's let go another 500? I mean, again, it's going to be that kind of conversation where you're talking to the person and they're like in shock, but they shouldn't be. But they're in shock because the average everyday person is on a zombie, is on autopilot. They're NPCs, as we joke. If you play games, and I haven't played games for years, but when you hear people say NPC, they mean a character that is non-important, that's not doing anything. They're just kind of bobbing along society, right? So when I was talking about Google, that makes them have an official $2.7 billion invested in Texas in 2024. So I just want to understand the marketing for Florida, the marketing for Texas, the marketing for Atlanta, the marketing for North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Nashville. You may read the tea leaves and the headlines that it's not as good anymore and people are leaving and the prices are too much. But some guy or girl who's been working a job and saving their money for 2 years to officially move to Nashville, officially move to Texas, officially move to Tennessee, in their head and in their mind and in their heart, they're like, I finally have my opportunity. I finally have my opportunity to leave. I'm going to leave. So they may be behind. I remember a friend talking to me about Bitcoin, and I was like, dude, where have you been? Like, he said, what do you know about this Bitcoin? And the way he said it, it would sound like somebody's grandpa who just got on the internet and was like, what do you think about this Bitcoin? And what happens is a lot of people are late to the game, and that's okay to be an early adopter. That's okay to be an early person to the game, right? If you're invested. Same thing with new construction, same with real estate. It's okay to be early, right? Because there's shift in real estate, there's shifts in real financial markets, there's shift in everything you think of. Real estate agents, marketing, sales, all of it. Like we talk about from January to April, May to July, August to September, like we talk about this stuff all the time. There's seasons to business, seasons to life. So what's happening, these people are going to be on late marketing. They're going to be like, well, girl, look what I learned, or look at the stuff I found out, or, oh, have you heard of tech jobs, or have you heard of tech sales, right? So you who've been neck deep in it, hundreds of YouTube videos into it, you aren't going to hear it the same way I hear it. You're not going to be invested in it the same way I will be invested in it. A lot of times what you're going to end up happening is you're going to be late to the information, right? And that happens, right? So again, I saw this or saw All Things Real mention women are going to be making a section more money essentially than men. And I kind of laugh because here's two things that happens. Excuse me. I'm really sick, you guys. Sorry about that. Men will go into hard trades. Now, what are hard trades? They're going to be trucking. They're going to be security guards. They're going to be warehouse workers. They're going to be, whatever trade they can get their foot in the door in, they will do it. Handyman services, all that good stuff. If push comes to shove. Okay. The women in those situations, like what's funny is a lot of people I know are like, man, have you seen how many women truckers are everywhere right now? And I'm like, yeah, kind of crazy, right? I'm talking about from YouTube channels, TikToks to just on the road. Some of my workers even say, yeah, the truck stop I was at, there's a ton of women, right? A couple people I know that are drivers right now, they say the same thing. I see women all the time. Women typically don't go into those hard roles. They don't typically go into trucking, right? That's where it tells you the economy is when you're starting to see more and more women go into trucking. What I notice is funny. If you notice women who are truckers who all of a sudden blow up from TikTok fame or Instagram fame or start making some money from social media, they immediately get out the truck, or they transition to local, or they transition to dispatch, or they transition to something else. I've noticed it a lot, right? With several channels that kind of blew up, and I'm like, man, she's doing well. They once a little bit of that $2,000, $3,000 supplemental internet money comes, they completely quit trucking that way. They could put it over the road. They don't care for it anymore for that. Because normally what's going to happen is these women are going to go into healthcare, nursing. Nursing schools have been backed up for the last 15 years in America, right? CNA, all this other stuff, because they're going to be traveling healthcare professionals, right? Traveling nurses, traveling phlebotomists, traveling radiologists, traveling techs of all types, surgical techs, you name it. Home healthcare is going to explode. Why is home healthcare going to explode? Because these people need the services. Baby boomers keep aging and aging, and they're going to need these services. And that's what a lot of people are not prepared to discuss. And who is in those fields? Women. So the home healthcare model, more women are going to get into it, right? They're going to get into the ownership side of it, owning the houses, the direct checks, owning the home healthcare services, owning a lot of the stuff that comes directly to the owner of those businesses, right? And they're more in the flow of kind of self-employment, self-ownership, right? Men, even when men go into healthcare, they're pushed into admin. If you go ask anybody who's in hospital settings, the average man that comes in, even if he's a nurse, he's going to push himself up through admin services. If you see a man who is in, radiology or anesthesia, right? Like you can go a million ways with this. But if you just look at all the jobs that are associated with a hospital, 9 times out of 10, the men are pushed towards admin and pushed higher up in income. Now, you may blame this on women's emotions and women promotions and you name it, cattiness of ladies. I've heard the whole thing. But a lot of times what happens is it's just kind of these roles that we assign. It just is what it is. But because these women aren't going to be in healthcare, they're going to be in those. And another one I would say is alternative medicine, right? As you see a lot of the women getting doulas, a lot of the women doing facial stuff, fillers, lips, hair, plastic surgery. These roles associated with these income producing healthcare stuff, we'll see a lot more women making money off of it. Okay. That's the best way to say it, making money off of it. Whereas, I think I showed you an article where men going into warehouse work is low pay, forklift operators, $14 an hour. Men who are temp workers at warehouses, $12. We saw that in California. You saw the article Diamond Dave talked about making $12.55 an hour in California as a warehouse worker. That's insane. Okay. So there was something I saw and it said majority. I just want to be like the majority. Majority of people end up, if you do what the majority do, you'll end up like the majority. By the way, the majority are unhappy, unfulfilled, and broke. So these are all choices. We can all choose at this point how we want to play this game, right? Do we want to be broke, unfulfilled, and happy? That's totally your choice, right? Now, two things. Three things. I'm trying to narrow it down here. Three things. Old world, new world. Now, what does that mean? A lot of people this summer, you saw, oh, Europe for the summer. Look at me in the south of France for the summer. I'm in Ibiza for the summer, right? And people went to Paris, and I told you this, my take on Olympics is people have such short-term memory. We forgot all the farmers literally were in the capital of Paris, in other areas, not farming, with tractor equipment, pouring manure on buildings, literally protesting for months. The BBC not covering it. United States not covering it. The news purposely not covering it. And they perfectly ended it, the riots and the protesting right on time for Olympics. But guess what? Now you have what? A shortage of meat, eggs, poultry, veggies. So they try to make these makeshift beds, these cardboard beds, because there's a lice outbreak in Paris. And they tried to feed these Olympians shitty food. Now, many people say, well, Erica, Olympians don't need to eat steak and eggs every day. They don't need to eat heavy every day. Of course, but we have all types of Olympians. And if you don't think Olympians are eating steak and eggs or eating high quality food, there's not a ton of vegetarians. There's just not. And you're probably going to be like, well, Erica, here's this example of some vegetarian person. Again, I hear you. There's always a unicorn. Please feel free to put in the comments. Listen, go ahead and put in the comments right now. You're a unicorn vegetarian person that's an Olympian or a bodybuilder, like vegan gangs or something. Put it in the comments. I know you want to do it so bad. But 9 times out of 10, when the athletes got there, they were like, well, can I just at least get eggs? Can I at least get eggs? No, they were not eggs. So the mass protesting, like when you saw Sha'Carri Richardson and many of these athletes who had just enough money to tell their sponsors, hey, I'm hungry. This bed is bad. Please help. Nike was cutting checks and putting them people in different hotels and hostels all over Paris. And why was that even possible? Paris had a lower turnout of people than they're promoting. A lot of the hotels had lower turnout of people. A lot of the food establishment had lower turnout of people. This is why it was so shocking when Serena Williams said, I was up there with my family and the place was half empty and they still wouldn't let me come in. Think about that. Place half empty, they still won't let her come in. Steph Curry and his wife, Steph Curry's wife, mother, and children were basically held hostage by the police. Like, no, you can't go that way. Go that way. Go that way. 8 cops around one woman with a baby, telling her to go somewhere else. Now, you may not think Steph Curry's family is very black looking, but they're black enough. Black enough. All right. And again, what is black looking, right? When you go to these other countries, I mean, I think y'all don't understand that, like, black people have been in France and these other countries for like since the 1920s, 1910s, before that, right? And what you think is like, oh, they're light skinned, they're modern, they're whatever. Like, they don't give a crap. Are you French? No, I don't like you. It's very much like French MO, okay? And so when people talk to me about, oh, I'm going overseas, I'm going to the old world to make money or live, I kind of look at them crazy. right? Scott Galloway is doing a really great job of his shows and all his things, saying America's the best place ever, hands down, to make money. Europe's the best place to spend it. That's why I moved, because his wife is British, over here, and I go to soccer games, I sit in pubs, I laugh, I do whatever, because he's already rich. He's almost a billionaire. Yeah, you can do that when you got worth $800 million. So you're trying to tell me you're going to go to the old world? There's a couple memes, and you can go look them up on TikTok, where it says like old world, where the guys are standing out on balconies in like places like Paris, Germany, Switzerland. They're like, oh, isn't it so beautiful? It's so beautiful. Google's not coming here. This is not coming. Like, they just start name off stuff that's not coming there. And it's not to insult them for their, like, oh, they do so well with mother care, and look how the Koreans, have a basically a doula that comes after you have your baby and help take care of you and basically be a night nurse and food and all that stuff. And what I want to tell them is, like, compare the population of the United States to these old world countries. It's like comparing apples and oranges. No, like, since the dawn of time, right? People have tried to migrate to the new world, right? Spain, Dutch, Italian, England, fighting for hundreds of years to get to the new world. And trust me, Africans was in that mug too. Okay, we was over here too. Like, don't get that twisted. Like, really educate yourselves, right? Um, and so this mantra that I'm gonna go to old country and live well. You're living well off new world money, right? This is where the white people were able to come down south, and I mean, Civil War times, let's go there, pre-Civil War times, and own plantations and have new wealth, or own cotton gins and have new wealth. And the prospect was, hey, come up to New York. It's like, England, it's like Germany, it's like little Germany, little Italy, but the South financially is that new world. Again, when you look and see the conversations people are having about Africa, they're having new world conversations. Now, I want you to understand, when I went to Panama, and I've been to Belize, and we went to Belize for a investment trip with a different group, a different apartment syndication group. People were like, oh man, it's so cool. We're like first tier, and the guy was like, no, every weekend Americans fly on planes and come here. Let me show you these houses for sale. You look at the houses and the investments for sale. A bunch of British white people owned them in the 1980s. You're like the fifth wave of people coming. People have always been coming to the new world, looking for this adventure, looking for this opportunity, right? And really what you learn in all this stuff, a lot of times, even when we're in Panama, is they end up selling what they have left in this new world, because it really takes a team. It takes like a team of 10 people really going hot and heavy in a new country, and mastering something, right? And going back to Britain, and going back to London, and going back to Scotland, and going back to Ireland, and going back to some little town, because, hey, we gave it a go for like 30 years, didn't do much, just act like a bunch of tourists. Now we're going to sell this stuff and go back home so we can at least die in our motherland. And that's what you're going to see for a bunch of people. You're going to see a bunch of people like, I'm never returning. Look at the viewership of people saying, I'm leaving America and I'm never returning. And then 2-3 years later, 6 months later, I had to come back. My visa, I ran out of money. Somebody broke into my house. Somebody stole from me. Something happened. Trust me, don't take my word on it. Like, go Google this stuff. Go Google this stuff. And then on top of that, there was a couple people who were like, well, I'm gonna be in Mexico because it's so much cheaper. And the places they're on Mexico, they're paying pennies on the dollar because they're literally 2 inches up from a hut. This is again, there's one guy who's on YouTube like 10 hours a day talking about how he's over here in the Philippines living his best life. And every time you look at these Filipino videos, they show you their little villa, they show you the pool, they show you themselves outside. And this man is not doing that. Now you can say, Erica, you being a hater, man. You being a hater. I'm just telling y'all, people are trying to sell you a life they ain't even living. Say what you will about my channel, say what you will about my businesses doing up or being down. I'm literally transcribing and transcending what's the real out here, right? And that, 10 years in, you still can pivot left or right. You still can take somebody and go left or right. Now what do I mean old world versus new world? I'm really like on this because I'm going to copyright a whole little blog on this in particular. But even now, when I say New World, there's levels to it. You're in New York, you come down to Atlanta, you come down to Florida, you're in New World. You're in New World where you can still go down the street, you can still buy a piece of land, you can still build buildings, you can still start from scratch, you can still do stuff. You in Dallas, you still go an hour out, build new stuff, start from scratch, have a new world experience. Now let's even take it up a step. Erica, I need it to be like $10,000. I can't afford nothing. Okay, you go down to Belize, you go down to Panama, you go down to what's that country I was thinking of? Oh no, I forgot its name. It's below Colombia. It's like Curacao. No. It's where the black people are, but it starts with a C, but it's another one. But you go even further down there and you're like, I want to start new. I want to buy a jungle property. I want to do you are welcome to do that. There's still parts of Belize you can spend $5,000 and get a big lot of land. And you're building it, and it's going to take you 10 to 20 years to really blow up big there, right? And this is an example, and I'm using it carefully, but Max Maxwell, he even said in an interview, hey man, you know, made all this money wholesaling and selling the ideal of wholesaling to all these black people. They all watch your courses. They're all running around wholesaling everything in the hood instead of building, right? Selling everything they could to builders. What are you going to do? Oh man, I have this amount of money. And he didn't want to say the exact amount, but millions. But I know that even with this multi-millions I have, to really get scale, I'm going to have to go somewhere cheap. I'm not going to really be blockbuster here. I'm going to have to go somewhere else. So he goes to Dubai for a little bit, but then he takes it all the way to Zanzibar. And you're going to hear more and more about Zanzibar the next year and a half. You're going to hear, it's going to be over the top. You're going to hear about Zanzibar all the time. All the time. And the reason being is people are looking for this cheap entryway, this new Mexico, this new world, this new place to invest. And I promise you, like, I'm going to show some videos later in December and January, but I want you to understand, like, people are doing that because, hey, if I can own 300 acres out here, it's more bombastic. It's more it's more grandioso. It's more, I'm the big king in this new crawfish town, right? I'm the big king way over here and somewhere else. Because doing new in America requires you to be in Texas, in Florida, in the South somewhere, right? That's why you see these billionaires going into some of these smaller towns and buying up the town essentially, and kind of being the big fish in the pond in that town, right? Because most towns on average have like 6 people, 6 families that are the families that own a ton of stuff in the town. Because the average person is doing what? They're being like the majority, unhappy, unfulfilled, broke, complaining about the city, complaining about the activity to do in the city, not creating solutions, not coming up with new stuff, right? Not thinking in years, thinking in months, right? To get that old world versus new world opportunity, you may have to move. Now you say, Erica, I don't want to move. I like staying in the Midwest. I like being over here. Cool. If you're in the Midwest, is there a way you can go 30 minutes out, 40 minutes out? If you're in California, is there a place you can go 30 minutes out, 40 minutes out? And create your new there and create your beginning there. We had, I think I told you about Todd Milley bought a house for like 300,000 in, I mean, like it's stuck in traffic for an hour and 30 minutes or something in LA, right? But he bought it for 300. By the time they finished building all the development, now it's worth 800,000. Now is when people are like, oh, I'm going to move over there years later, right? And that's the problem. We already want it built. We already want Atlanta jumping, right? And as I get ready to go down to Atlanta for August 25th, I literally am going to go drive to Covington. Why? Because I just told y'all about Amazon, these companies going further out there, investing out there. That's going to be your new set. Macon, Georgia is going to be your new place, okay? Where they're putting these highways. You have to read economic development plans, and you have to be determined, do I really want to have new? Do I really want the new world experience where I'm going to a place and then super investing and super building there? Because if not, old world is really for status keepers. And if you don't have no status, you're making a mockery of yourself. Right? Now, what do I mean you're making a mockery of yourself? You're making a mockery of yourself. You're a bullshit artist. You're bullshitting yourself. Yeah, I'm leaving America. I'm never coming back. I'm going to pay $200 in rent over here in Thailand and live like a king until what? Until you have high blood pressure issues. So you have a heart attack. so none of your family can go claim your body. Again, this is not me being hyperbolic. I want you to look on YouTube. There has been hundreds of videos. I mean, if not thousands, where some dude, older dude, is telling y'all this and it ends up dead and no one picks up his body. And other YouTubers are like, sorry about you, man. Sorry to hear that, brother. Sorry you passed on, but you got to chase that booty. You got to chase that booty, man. You know, it's like, okay. Right? There was this thing I read where it was like, this guy said, who uses WhatsApp? And the guy said, it's like the whole world loves soccer except America. That's how WhatsApp is. Everybody else in the old world is using it. It's America who's not using it, right? And so this is this argument. Why are these immigrants flooding the border? Why are they coming here? Why they know America sucks and the cops are racist and this is happening? And I just want to tell you, they know they can buckle down for 2 years, work multiple jobs just for 2 years, not like this ongoing thing, but for 2 years, have a plan, get in a house, keep it moving, and then start a business and do whatever. Your average person that you talk to that's in their late 20s to 30s, and you're like, oh man, you still Ubering? Man, you've been Ubering for 3-4 years. What's the game plan? Oh, I'm trying to pay off this student loan debt. And I'm like, well, how much is it? Right? Why is not every single dollar dime knocking that out and then be done with it? Because they're not serious. They ain't serious about it. They feel better telling you, yeah, man, I'm doing this little extra here and there. I'm doing this little hustle. And it's like, baby, go ahead and pivot. Go ahead and do the new thing. Either go all in or stop being a bullshit artist, because you're bullshitting yourself. You ain't bullshitting me. Now, what did I want to say? With the last thing I want to finish this out with is copywriting and SEO. You've been seeing I put stuff on the community wall and in the emails that will probably come out tomorrow and the rest of the time, I think, through the rest of August and September, about copywriting and SEO. And you're like, Erica, oh my God, that's so boring. Why would I want to do that? And I want you to understand, in the simplest way I can put it, I had this guy complaining about he had these really terrible financial woes. But for the last 6 months, I've seen nothing but him posting about women, 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 women. And I said, dude, you could have posted for the last 6 months about digging out from financial ruin. You could have wrote articles. You could have did videos. You could have built up this great story and had affiliates and affiliate marketing and been won over people's hearts and had this amazing opportunity to display like gusto, American pride, and rebuilding. And you could have won people with that. But instead, you want to come online and be bitter waters about women. Like, I even was like going to be on his side after I heard what had been going on the past 6 months. But I'm like, you spent the past 6 months, after I looked through your stories, I looked through your Instagram, I looked through your Facebook, like being bitter grapes on women. I can't help you, bro. I can't help you. I can't rock with you. I can't give you no advice, because that's silly. That's like I'm gonna keep chopping off my toe and I need my toes to walk. That's crazy. Copywriting can simply be him writing a blog once a week for a year. That's 52 blog articles. Right? SEO can be heavy. I mean, oh my God. There's so many places I can go with this, but I want you to understand, how do you get massive, like, blow, right? Everybody thinks it's video. And yes, video is important. Video is life-changing. But the audio scene and the writing scene is still powerful. The ebook scene is still powerful. Listen, movies in Hollywood are thirsty for scripts, right? And what's a way you can get your book to blow, right? If you write your book today, let's just say you got this great ideal for a fictional book, and you hit up all these fancy influencers with what? Book clubs. One of those ladies are going to say, all right, listen, we'll put your stuff up. We'll put your stuff out here. I'll market it to my book club group of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million people, but you got to give me the rights to be able to produce the film. You got to give me 10%. You got to give me 20%. People are going to say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? Because you have an opportunity to sell 50,000, 100,000, maybe 200,000 copies of your book that you wouldn't usually sell. So never believe writing is dead. That's silly. In so many aspects, that's silly. Writing still has a lot of capacity and a lot of room to grow. Copywriting emails for people, copywriting people's courses, copywriting people's agendas, copywriting people's Instagram pages, copywriting people's TikTok storylines. All that stuff makes a lot of money. It makes a lot of money. And I don't want y'all to get it twisted. And again, the same three always win. Health, wealth, health, wealth, and relationships. I had to think for a second. I'm like, dang, what was I about to say? Health, wealth, and relationships. So those always win. Those always do well. And so when you hear 10 million people didn't pay their rent and didn't pay their mortgage in June, I want you to understand the narrative that can be crafted, can be talked about for the next 6 months is like, oh, when is the Fed rate being cut? What will Americans do? How will Americans pivot? The new frontier of America. Like, there's so many ways this can be pivot and can be written. I think they're just letting this thing stick together long enough for the election to go through, and then they'll be like, oops, here you go. Oops, pull the rug, right? Oops, we're in a recession. And many people say, Erica, how can you say we're in a recession? Easy, 10 million people didn't pay their rent or mortgage. Easy, the shadow statistics literally say 20% of people are unemployed. You're talking about people who got unemployed in, 2020, 2021, and never really got back on the road of recovery, or always in a part-time job status. They don't really have a career, right? Same thing I told y'all about the Kellogg's company closing in Nebraska. Nebraska never really gets hit by any recession, right? They have some military there, the Air Force there, they got some other stuff there, but they never really get hit. So for them to have a whole factory close, they're like, wait a minute, what? Us here in Nebraska? And it won't close till 2026. So these people have 2 years to really like, okay, what can we do in this 2 years to fix my life? Again, copywriting could be done there, right? And I hate saying copywriting because that's not juicy enough, but again, blogs, articles can be written there, right? I was over my other aunt's house the other day, and she was printing out a receipt, a recipe, and I was laughing a little bit, but I was like, let me see where you got that from. It was a blog, of course. The girl's making a ton of money. There's somebody I'm going to put on the community wall. Oh, I would love to do a whole show talking about her. She is an interior designer. Her and her husband have done like 400 houses of famous people and other people, right? And she owns like 5 houses. So she did a video about our beach house, and it's a small little 800 square foot house, perfectly crafted, right, on the inside. Then she did a video on her house up north, and then on her farm, all kind of stuff, beautifully crafted. I mean, like, and she doesn't have like a huge bunch of number of followers. She's like 19,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel. But I'm watching the videos and I go look up this girl, and of course she has article after article written about her. Famous person after famous person written about her. So a lot of times people come up with these ideals of writing doesn't matter anymore. It's all video, it's all audio, and that's dangerous. I think writing is powerful. You could have a few customers and make a lot of money. Even when it comes to, as I see in the blue collar space, these guys don't want to write letters. They don't want to knock doors. They don't even want to help their clients apply for credit. They just want to show up and do the work and go home, right? And let's really be honest. The average handyman, I'm be careful. Listen, put your opinions about handymans in the comments right now, right? The average handyman contractor is like missing teeth, doing drugs, drinking liquor, cutting up, late to the job, clothes don't fit, clothes are dirty, presentation sucks, does good work though. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like, what the hell, right? Our friend went to a job site and it was just filthy. I'm talking about food everywhere, beer everywhere. And the guy, he's like, this guy does such great work, but he's in here like a nasty slob. And he said he went to his work truck and it was the same inside the work truck. And I'm like, the copywriting you could provide for a company by saying, our guys come clean, dressed, ready to go. Our workers are top notch and respectable. Like the amount of copywriting that can be done, pumping up your company amidst the competition by just showing up really and following up with calls would be life-changing, right? Just the documentation of your work with photos and houses and testimonials blows the competition out of the water, right? It just does. And so what a lot of people aren't ready for is the conversation of, we need to improve our skills. You need to be able to better clearly write what you found valuable, describe yourself, right? Like when people say, oh, I hate interviews where they make you describe yourself. Why? You should be able to be the number one person to describe yourself. They don't know you. you should be able to write well enough to get yourself where you're trying to go. And that's the best way I can say it. That's the best way I can say it. That's the best way I can wing this thing and close it out. But um, a lot of bullshit artists are kicking y'all butt because they just bullshit a little bit more than others. And it's unfortunate when there's really good workers out there, really good people out there. They just need better display of their work, better display of their ability, and better copywriting. Right? I know that sounds so boring, but the way you engage in people and the way you pull them into your story, that's how you sell them, right? That's how you sell them. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. Oh, I think I forgot to mention Big Lots might be going bankrupt. But the sad part is this is Big Lots time to shine. This is Dollar Tree time to shine. This is Dollar General's time to shine if we're truly in a recession and those retailers struggle. Same with Walmart, but more people are going back to Walmart that used to be at Target thinking they're middle class. That's a big wake up call. It's a big wake up call, right? There is that kind of ongoing thing that consumers just look for ways to consume just cheaper, right? That's why you have all these pushes of these calls like, I'm going overseas so I can consume on $1,000 a month. Bump you guys, Again, people, the average person, that's what I tell y'all. Once you get a person in a home, their mindset changes. They're between having a garden, low cooking from house, work from home, chilling, like I'm not leaving this house. The expenses they spend are reduced. The biggest thing that pulls their money is insurance, the mortgage, and electricity. So then you're copywriting for like, you should get solar panels. You should get all these different things that can heat proof your house or keep your AC bill down by doing this. I'm sorry, I was going to go into a long tangent, but I'm trying to hold it back. Big Lots, Dollar General, and these people suffering shows you there's a real shift in the economy. And people don't want to label it recession, and I get it. Unemployment's only 4%. It's not. We all know it's higher than that. We can go look up shadow stats for ourselves. But at the end of the day, what you'll see is a push of women going into more healthcare jobs that they just know they can get because they're a woman. It's low certification, low barrier entry. Some of them will be high barrier entry, right? My friend was saying that over at the community college, what do you call it, for ultrasound techs. It's a very, very like, the wait list is long. There's so many women trying to be waitlist tech, be ultrasound technicians, and they're trying to encourage them to go do other stuff, surgical tech, all this other stuff. She said, but what they hate is the math, and they hate anatomy. They have to take anatomy class. So imagine the people that are working in the hospital hate anatomy class. That's insane, right? That's the scary part, right? And when it comes to it, it's like, who's going to be the enforcers of putting people out of houses and sheriff and kicking out squatters? It's going to be men. People are going to be over security guards. It's going to be men, right? So pay attention to how the jobs will flow in the economy. But we did say it a long time ago. There are going to be women going home. And they're going to be going home mostly because what's the number one thing I talk about all the time is daycare. The cost of daycare and the cost of elderly care. Women are, if you go on YouTube and you look, a lot of women are saying, how can I get paid to take my parent to their medical appointments? Put that in the chat if any of you know what I'm talking about. Put a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. People are trying to figure out how to get paid to take their parents to medical appointments. People are trying to figure out how to get paid to have a home daycare. What do you need to be licensed for home daycare? They're trying to figure it out because they're hearing it's $2,000 a month, it's $3,000 a month. I'm sorry, unless your wife is making $4 or $5,000 a month and you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 a month on daycare, she needs to stay home. It's just common sense. But the thing that's the secret thing nobody wants to say out loud, the dangerous thing nobody wants to say out loud is, do you have a husband or a man who is willing to look up and get up every day and go to work and know that his check is not his to enjoy? It's basically, I pay the rent, I pay our cell phones, I pay this house internet, I pay for these children to eat, and that's it. That's it. Like, I'm not out here stunting. I'm not buying video games. I'm not getting extra haircuts. I'm not getting nice clothes. I'm not buying shoes. Like, I'm not going on vacations. Do you have a man in your life that is willing to sacrifice at that level? Because they're trying to convince you, oh, these men are making money. Listen. There's a girl I saw, and she did one of the string interviews, and she had a baby. And again, I tell people, they were like in the comments saying, tell her to call us when she's 10 years, kid's 10 years old. She literally was talking about, you know, her baby, it doesn't take that much money for her to stay home, and her husband works. And he's like, how much you make? 42, you know, a year. And they were in Florida, and everybody was like, girl, bye. Call us when that baby's 3 or 4 or 5, right? And I understand their complaint, because she's not assessing over the year. And that is a very compressed living, especially while your baby's a baby. So that's one thing I want y'all to address. And two, as I finish this out, I'll see you guys August 25th in Atlanta. But we'll go more and more into this conversation. Again, I think this one should be labeled Wartime CEO, but I'll save it for another one. This is your girl, Erica, Classic Line Blog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the video, drop a 1 in the comments. If there's anything I've missed, or you guys looking for, email us at admin@classiclinemtx.com, and we'll get to you. We'll get back to you. And again, you guys, this is your girl, Erica. Later.